Okay, Toyota Alphard MZ top of the range edition. I'm going to show you how we put a band expander on so that we get more than 88.3 FM in the UK. So, turn the ignition on. We've got 88.3 and we've got nothing else that it'll pick up. We'll just check that the reverse camera's working, which it is. Okay. First, remove the gear knob. Just unscrews. Might be a little bit tight at the beginning. So, gear knob off and out of the way. And then we need a tool. I use a rig tool. There's plenty of equivalents on eBay and places like that. Okay, you go between the edge of the trim and the dashboard colour. Okay. Okay, so you might need to try a couple of places until you find one that works, and then lever it out all the way around. When I'm doing these top pieces, I'm just twisting it side to side like that. So that kind of movement, just to kind of lift it from one side to the other. Okay. Need to put it into ignition on so we can move down to the neutral position, and then this will then lift up and away. Okay, so lift it up, and then behind you need to find the wiring. Turn off the ignition before going near seatbelt warning lights and such like. So the clips at the back there, which I'm using my thumb to undo. Awkward one comes out. So that's the whole centre of the dashboard comes off in one piece. This is the shift lock button that often drops out down the inside. So this one just wasn't lined up. That's why it wasn't showing on the dash. So place that out of the way. I normally put them behind into the rear of the vehicle and lean them against the seat. Okay, so we now have the whole of the dash area available. Okay, so I put the gear knob back on at this stage, only a couple of turns, and the reason for that is you're going to move the stereo forward, and the worst thing you can do is rest the screen against a very sharp point of the thread of the gear change and damage the screen. Haven't managed to do it, but come close a couple of times. So you then take your fillet screwdriver, 4 screws, These screws are only into the kind of plastic ABS that the dashboard is made of, so just remember they're not very tight when you take them out, and the same will be true when you put them back in. A magnetic tip screwdriver here works better than the one I'm happening to use at the moment. Certainly better for putting them back in again. Okay, so we then move the head unit out. Okay, I move it down so that we can get at the back of the head unit. Okay, so we always have plenty of wires on the back of the head unit. Okay, and it's often the case that you'll find some coiled wires here. I think this one's for an aftermarket toll collection system that's on this vehicle. Okay. Okay, this is an aftermarket loom adapter for a Toyota vehicle. I was just using it so that I can show you how I identify what is the wire that we use for the ignition switch. So they're all labelled. It tells you that the red wire is ignition switched, and if you look down here, these are the two plugs. This one is for speakers, and this one is for some speakers and ignition switch, neutral, permanent live, and illumination and such like. So ignition switched is top row, second in. So if you look along here, it's the grey one next to the blue and red. Okay, so what you do is you unplug this plug. Okay, and then you remove the plastic coating, or the kind of insulation that Toyota put on everything so that their looms don't rattle. Never seen on French cars. Okay. Okay, we're going to solder this joint. Never use Scotch locks. Always solder all joints that you use, that you do in cars. This is a cordless gas eroder soldering iron. I find them brilliant. And some solder. Soldering iron is warmed up. Good soldered joint there. Soldering iron goes off. We have a shield that goes on like this, so we can put it down without fear of damaging our Alphard. We then need to insulate the joint. We haven't split the wire, so we can't use heat shrink because we won't be able to slide it on. But we're going to make a very tidy job of the joint. Okay, so fully insulated, and then we slide back over with it anti-rattle. It's always a bit gooey still, so it will reseal itself, and then we plug it back in. So we've now got a band expander that's got its power on ignition switched. We've got two aerials. Okay, we need to pull out the larger of the two. The small one you leave disconnected because it's the local FM. If you leave it in place, you'll have real problems receiving radio signals. So we just tuck it back down into the wiring loom of the vehicle. Okay, route this tidily along the bottom, and this is the band expander which we plug back into the stereo, and the radio wiring loom we take tidily around the back, and plug in to the band expander. Okay, we're close up, and so we see you've tucked it in amongst all of the wiring that's already there on the back. Nothing's going to rub up against anything. Okay, at which point the band expander is in place. So we'll just lift the radio up. I managed to press the open button. It's not part of the install. Okay, so we just line it back up so that it's on its mountings, and we turn on the radio again. Okay. FM. And immediately we're now picking up local radio. And in Coventry our local radio is 96.2, so we've got an 18 Hertz frequency shifting band expander, so 96.2 becomes 78.2. So we have a working band expander fitted on our Alphard, and now we just need to finish off the job. Don't over tighten them because it's into plastic, remember. Keep pressing the open button. So 4 screws back in place. Move back down into neutral position. Take your gear knob off. It was there to protect your radio, your screen. Okay. Holding over to the right hand side. Reconnect hazards first. Put that kind of in position. That's the harder part. There's 3 connectors on the back of the air conditioning. They're quite difficult to get to, so I'm going to have to crawl around the back here over the passenger seat. So I'll just stop the video. Okay, air conditioning connected and sonar along here. Okay, then the passenger seat warning and the cigar lighter down here. Okay, so everything should be reconnected at this stage. Again, making sure you don't get anything into this area of where the stereo is. Okay, lift the unit back into place. Use the finger from your right hand to hold the shift lock button up in place. As you bring this down into place, and it slowly line it up. If your shift lock button drops, it's the time to hold it. Just lift it up until you press anything down here. Okay, it should all line up. You should have your display working again with your clock. If you've got sonar, that should be all lit up. Test's okay. Ignition's on, so we can turn on our air conditioning. Everything's working there. Okay, so we're back in park. Turn everything off. Couple of clicks, it's on. And put your gear knob back on.